RedditHub. My name's Finn. Growing up, I was always the quiet one. I did my own thing, but had solidified myself in a friend group, none of us popular, none of us outcasts. I took this with me into college, and it was there where I truly realized the part of life I was missing. The friends I made there had an abundance of crazy stories and adventures that could silence a room, mainly Lexi. She'd traveled the world, mostly by herself, which opened her up to meeting some really interesting people and getting herself into some really crazy scenarios. I wanted that. Was it out of my comfort zone? Absolutely. But that's where we thrive, right? So after college, I asked her for some advice on how to organize a solo trip. I wanted to backpack, live it rough, stay with host families or in hostels. Like she had done. She asked where I wanted to go, and we got talking about my possibilities. I chose to travel across Asia. It's somewhere I'd never been, and the ranging cultures from country to country, city to city, intrigued me. I loved the way Lexi had spoken about each country: India, Uzbekistan, Thailand, Vietnam, South Korea. So, she'd put me in contact with people she'd met along the way, people to house me or offer me jobs, and I planned my route. Lexi set me up with places to stay in most instances, despite the occasional hostel. The trip was amazing. It brought out a side of me that I knew I had, but rarely showed. I was talking to strangers, trying to speak to locals in their respective languages, embracing the culture of wherever I was. I lived day to day, from sleeping on packed buses, to hitchhiking with strangers who soon became new friends. I stayed with an array of host families, all providing me with different experiences, and I am now on my way to stay with the final one before the end of my trip. I pulled out the itinerary that Lexi and I had come up with months prior. This last family I'm staying with was one of the few that required me to be on time. They live in an isolated village, in the mountains of Japan, and were expecting me on a certain date at a certain time. Whilst Lexi hadn't actually stayed with this family, she had planned to. Her trip had been cut short due to personal circumstances, and she never got the chance to meet them. She had communicated with the family through a mutual friend, as the family didn't have much access to the internet and apparently spoke very little English. All the information I had was the name of the village and to go to the main square, where I would be greeted by the family. And that's basically all I knew. That's what makes this so exciting. I also knew the name of the family. The Normura family. The journey here was exhausting. I had taken a ferry from South Korea into Honshu, Japan. From there, I had taken a series of buses, before having to walk for about 30 minutes up a small, dirt road through the trees. Thankfully, the bus driver knew where the village was, because when I got off in the middle of nowhere I would have been useless with just my map and my very limited Japanese. He pointed me in the right direction. But the journey was worth it. The village is beautiful. It is large, situated on a grassy plain that rests alongside a small mountain which overlooked the traditional wooden houses. As I walk its streets, most people smile and nod. I'm guessing there aren't many outsiders that visit this place. I feel privileged to be one of them. The houses are made of wood and clay, providing a complementary rustic appearance against the bright green grass below. Some boasted large, front doors, whilst others opted for the more traditional sliding doors. I walk the streets in awe of the hustle and bustle going on around me, contrasted by the natural, overwhelming beauty of the mountain above. I soon see an area that is clearly the main square of the village, a clearing in the middle of the wooden houses, with a beautiful statue standing tall in its center. I go to inspect the statue, when a girl approaches me, I'd guess mid-20s, and smiles. "Finn?" she asks, focusing on pronouncing my name correctly. "Yes." "Hi," I respond, "are you the Normura family?" "Yes." "Yes," she excitedly replies, "welcome. I am Ren." "Hi, Ren," I introduce myself, "my name is Finn. Thank you so much for agreeing to have me." Her English seems very good. I felt comforted that I would be able to speak with someone and be shown around, as I was under the impression that there would be a language barrier. "Please, it's fine. We are very excited," she says, "would you like to come with me?" Of course, I agree. I am excited to see where I'll be staying during this last week of my trip. On the way to her house, Ren tells me that her family doesn't speak English, except for her mother who she is teaching. Ren says that she learned English when she moved out of the village to Kyoto, where she was able to take classes. As we walk, the houses around me seem to grow larger and further apart. Ren says that her house is situated just outside the village, and essentially that we are in the area where the richer families live. All in all, her house is around 20 minutes from the village square, down a beautiful, green path, overhung by shrubs and flowers. It is more isolated than the houses in the village center, which I am happy about as I'd be able to get the most out of both the village life, and the natural beauty that surrounds it. Ren's house is beautiful. Intricate designs danced on its light brown rooftops, looming above its large front door frame. The wooden walls of the outer house pristine, as if newly made. The isolation of the house enhances its beauty, as there are no distractions to take you away from its bold presence. I've hit the jackpot here. Ren opened the front door, and welcomes me inside. The house is split into two parts, the main area with the dining table and kitchen, and an area with the bedrooms and bathroom. The two sections of the house are connected by a small walkway that takes you outside, providing a stunning view of a flowery garden below. The main area hosts a dining table that lays close to the ground. Just off that, a kitchen area, and an area with what looks like instruments. In the far corner of the room, a small house shrine. Across the connecting walkway, the sleeping area. A long, wide corridor, hosting rooms either side, each with a traditional sliding door made of what I think is rice paper. Ren shows me to my room, the third one down. My room is simple, a mattress laying on the floor, and a small table perched below an open window too high to see out of. Like the rest of the house, the walls and floor are made wood. I set my bag down, and unpack, before going to meet her family. I meet the rest of the Nomuras over dinner. Ren has a sister, Hina, who is quiet. She is younger than Ren, around 17, and I feel she was shy around me. Ren's mother, Seiko, is very sweet. She tried to use what English she had to make me feel welcome, and offered me more food than I could handle. Ren's father, however, seems less welcoming. He is a serious man, speaking only to his wife throughout the meal after greeting me with a slight nod. Strangely, I am told to refer to him as Father Nomura. Whilst I didn't expect this, I won't question it as they're doing me a favor by letting me stay here. I assume it's a sign of respect. Dinner, however, is lovely. Seiko has clearly put a lot of effort into it. I am already starting to feel comfortable here, when Ren pulls me aside as we all part from the dining table. Finn, she grabbed my arm, locking eyes with mine. The last room in the sleeping area, that's my grandparents' room. The room at the end of the corridor. You aren't allowed to go in there. Oh, I didn't even realize your grandparents are staying here too, I reply, having not seen them. Yes, they are, she says, and you must make sure you don't go near their room, okay? Okay. I find that weird. Obviously, I'm not going to be going into anyone else's room, but if she was going to warn me about that, why only warn me about the grandparents' room? I am just back from a walk around the village. Ren and I went. She gave me a quick tour, best she could before it got dark, before we headed back to her house. I didn't see any of her family on the way through the main area, or in the corridor housing my bedroom. I thank Ren, and say I'd see her tomorrow. Exhausted from my long journey, I lay down to sleep. I wake to the sound of a whisper. The whisper is a harsh, long one. I can't make out what is being said, I think it's in Japanese. It's a fast whisper, sounds like a chant. Someone is repeating something. I sit up, and peer through the darkness at my sliding door. It's coming from the corridor, almost as if right outside my room. It starts to speed up even more, repeating the same incoherent phrase over and over. What the f***? What's it saying? Suddenly, the whispering stops. I sit there in silence, waiting for something to happen. Footsteps. From the end of the corridor. The sound of the footsteps increase as they quickly approach my door, before passing it, seemingly heading for the exit. As they pass my door, I make out a silhouette through its paper. It moved fast. Weird. I get out of bed, and edge toward the door. I slowly slide it open, peering into the dark corridor before me. It's empty. I look down one end, nothing, then down the other, also nothing. I am about to close the door and head back to sleep when I see wet footprints. They appear to have come from the room at the end of the corridor, and led all the way out to the connecting walkway outside. I can clearly see that whoever made them was barefoot, some of the footprints of them so clear that I could count each toe. I begrudgingly follow them. Just as I'm about to open the door onto the connecting walkway outside, I hear the door of one of the bedrooms behind me slide open. It's Ren. Ren, I stutter, someone just ran by my room. She hushes me. It is grandmother, she whispers, she has problems at night. She runs into the village often at night. Father will get her. I figure she means night terrors, or sleepwalking, or something. Spooked, I apologize to Ren, and head back to my bed. The cold air wakes me up the next morning. The light streams through the open window above, as I sit up in bed. I have no idea what time it is. I could have slept for ages after all that traveling. I should probably get up and see what's happening. I roll out of bed, and sit on the floor whilst I go through my suitcase. I get changed, and turn towards the bedroom door. I'm freaked out about last night, but it's my first night here, so I'm definitely not going to bring it up. I walk out into the corridor, and as I take one last look at the room before sliding the door shut, I notice footprints. They are the same barefoot, wet footprints I had seen in the corridor last night. My heart flutters, and I scan the route. These were different footprints. Like last night, these came out of the room at the end of the corridor. But instead of leading to the exit, they lead into my room, toward my bed. I see two wet footprints, planted on the floor at the foot of my bed. Ren's grandmother had been watching me sleep. I decide not to talk to Ren about the footprints in my room last night. If they have a grandmother with these types of issues, it must be very hard to control, and they must be aware that this kind of thing happens. Although I am on edge, I'm not really the kind of person to completely wave something off like this. Call it overthinking, but I always feel like something more sinister is going on, even where it isn't. So, whilst I'm not going to forget that it happened, I'm also not going to bring it up to Ren. Especially not after my first night here. It might not even happen again. Ren is taking me around the village this morning. It's just as beautiful in the early light as when I had arrived, the mountain top glistening in the still rising sun. However, I do notice something is different. The people. When I arrived in the village yesterday, they were smiling, waving, greeting me. Now, they look in shock of my presence. A man who I clearly recognize as one who waved at me the day before, just looks at me, then at Ren, then back at me, almost as if in fear, before turning back to his family. Ren isn't speaking to anyone, and they aren't speaking to her. Surely, in a village this size, everyone is friendly with everyone? Or at least Ren would recognize some of the people around us. But apparently not. We've been walking for around an hour, mostly talking about my life, when a man burst from his house and grabs me. His hands grip my shoulders, and he stares into my eyes with an alarmed look on his face. He is speaking fast. His tone is one of urgency, frantically speaking at me, volume slowly rising. Ren quickly pushes him away. I was too in shock to even react. She speaks a quick sentence back to him, before grabbing my arm and leading me away. He stays by his house, still shouting at me from afar. What the? I exclaim, what was that? What is he saying? He is trying to sell you something, Ren replies, eyes front as she continues to lead me away from the scene. Sell me something? I ask in shock. Why would he? What? Was that even a shop? It is nothing. She seemed different, sterner. He is trying to rip you off because you are not from here. What the f? That's an aggressive way of trying to achieve a sale. Almost unbelievably so. The first interaction I've had with someone else today, was that? I look back toward the man just before he disappears from my view. He is on his knees, pointing at me, still shouting. We are just back from the village, and I am going back to my room to show Ren a book I had told her about. I enter the corridor of bedrooms. At the far end, I see Father Normura with a very elderly man, Ren's grandfather. The old man is frail, with strands of gray hair on his head, and tired eyes. Father Normura appears to be helping him into his room, one hand on his shoulder, the other hand locked with his. Father Normura looks up at me, so does the grandfather. Father Normura shouts something at me in Japanese, waving his head to the exit behind me, as if telling me to leave. He seems angry. I freeze in my tracks. Do I continue to my room? Is he actually telling me to go back the way I came? My eyes dart to the grandfather. He is staring at me, eyes wide now. His mouth is moving, he's muttering something. I can't quite hear what he's saying over the shouts, not that I'd understand anyway. I turn to leave, as Father Nomura's tone gets more agitated. As I turn, the grandfather speaks up, although still a rasp whisper. He is repeating something. He is repeating the same phrase I had heard outside my room last night, over and over. I shut the door behind me, and stand on the walkway, staring blankly at the flowers below. I have just finished dinner. Other than Ren and Seiko, and the weird exchange with Father Nomura, I have seen none of the family today. Dinner was quaint, but delicious. Seiko continued to force food onto my plate throughout the entire meal. Ren and I are sitting in the garden outside, teaching Seiko some English phrases. It's been quite a strange day. I've been shouted at by a random guy, and by Father Nomura. But it's been a really nice day too. I can't sleep. Last night is replaying in my head, freaking me out. I'm nervous that as soon as I fall asleep, someone's going to come into my room or something. I've been lying here for a few hours, and haven't heard a peep outside, but I'm still so on edge. My brain won't shut up. In fact, my thoughts are so loud and overwhelming, that I almost didn't notice my door begin to slide open. It opens very slowly. Someone in the corridor is sliding it quietly and carefully, as if trying to not make a sound. I am frozen. I stare at the doorway, as more of the dark corridor is exposed. It's almost as if the darkness pours into my room, bringing with it fear and uncertainty. The door soon is fully open, but I see nobody. Just darkness. I hear nothing, see nothing. My door just opens, that's it. I'm not moving. I lay in bed, on edge, ready to spring up at any moment should I need to. But nothing has happened. It's been open now for a few minutes, and nothing. I build up the courage to go and shut it. I stand up, slowly and quietly, and edge towards the door. Curiosity takes the better of me as I reach it, and I quickly peer down both ends of the corridor. To the left towards the exit, nothing. Darkness. To the right, a light at the end of the corridor. A faint light, coming from the open door of the grandparents' room, although the room is side on so I can't see inside. The light is clearly candlelit, as it flickers in such a way. That. I start to slide my door shut, and notice the footprints once more. Wet, barefoot footprints. They led from the grandparents' room, to mine, then go back the way they came. Had the grandmother come to my room, opened my door, then gone back to sleep? I was so in shock, engulfed by both the fear and the overwhelming darkness, that I almost missed it. The wall opposite the grandparents' room has a faint shimmer of light reflected onto it through the open door. As well as light, a shadow is reflected onto the wall. The shadow of a figure, a person, standing just inside their room. It's just standing there, completely still. I feel like it is facing the corridor, but can't tell for sure. All I know is that someone is standing right by the entrance to their room, barely inside it but far enough that I can't actually see them. Are they waiting for me to investigate? Do they know I can see them? They're so still. I quietly slide my door fully shut and get back into bed. It's around 3 a.m. now, and I haven't slept. I don't think I will. Well, sleep must have taken me last night, although I don't know when. I sit up in bed fast, in a panic, looking around my sunlit room. No footprints. My door is shut. Bag seems untouched. Wow. I am so thankful for that. Although, I'm scared. I'm scared about last night. I'm scared about tonight. Hell, I'm scared about even getting up out of bed right now. Tonight, though, I'm going to set my phone up, maybe in the corridor, and film what is going on. I'm going to hide it in the corner, perhaps in one of the protruding rafters. I'll make sure it's difficult to see. Nobody will see it. I want to find out what happens here at night. Thanks for watching. Did you like the video? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. R/Bye.